Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Pundit's Pundit. My name is Scott Morgan, Rock Motor City Madmouth. Great crew tonight. Then again, it's the regular crew, so that's what we have. Before I go to the crew, though, let everybody know that Pundit's Pundit is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Pundit's Pundit can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Participate in the chat room. That's one way to do it. Or send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Want to advertise cost efficiently? Give me a call at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Also, you can find us on Twitter or X at Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes. And I should also point out that I have a new book, a media book coming out in the next few weeks. And it's called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. I'll tell you, this is a book that a lot of people can benefit, whether it's upcoming podcasters or anybody that has a feel for the journalistic world, without a doubt, will go out there and benefit by it. With that said, I want to go ahead and introduce the crew, okay? George Eichhorn, welcome back. You and I get two tonight. This is the first of two.
Good to see you, Scott. Guys, looking forward to the show tonight.
And Denzel Snipes.
George has got an extra happy grin on his face because his Lions are winning, and so are yours, Scott.
Yeah, that's true. And last but not least, the pundit himself, JC, Jacob Christian.
Hey, what's going on? We're going to be talking in a few minutes about, but this was the end of an era today.
Yeah, it sure is. With that said, I'll hand the broadcast over to Denzel Snipes. Go ahead, take it away, Denz.
All right. And just as a reminder, yes, hit the like and subscribe button to the South Florida Tribune. You can also catch myself and Jacob Christian on the Sideline Sports Network. Definitely look that up on YouTube. Hit the like and subscribe button because we have topics, shows, material all week long, every single week. It's good stuff. So please hit the like and subscribe button, and as well as follow us on YouTube. Well, no, that was YouTube, on Twitter and Facebook, as well as LinkedIn. Before I get to the pundit point, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that the sports world definitely lost a legend today in NFL Hall of Famer Dick Butkus, who died at the age of 80 just earlier. You talk about a man who is, he was an 8-time Pro Bowler, a 5-time All-Pro, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, Hall of Fame class of 1979, voted in 2009 as the most feared linebacker of all time. And, the impact that this man had on today's game, it's fair to say that the modern day linebacker may very well have been modeled after Dick Butkus. So, Jacob, since you're a resident Bears fan, and I know the man meant a lot to you, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'll tell you, growing up, when you have a dad that was much older, and when you're 50 when you're born, you know what I mean? He's born in 28. You hear them all. Well, you heard about Dick Butkus, Sam Huff, Ray Nitschke, Ed Sprinkle. I can name I can name a bunch of them. You know what I mean? Just a pile of them. Bulldog Turner. He drank with him he got to drink with him in his final year, 1950. So it's like Bulldog Turner. You hear all the names, but you know how tough these guys were. And then Dick Butkus was in front of us at all times. This is my pundit question tonight. They were part of us, and it's like, and the more that we saw in our life is about football, the more we're going to miss it, because everything is, like I keep saying, it's run by the agents, run by the lawyers now. No one's going to have the freedom to be able to be this rough anymore. People talk about the tough guy. I talk about Larry Bird a lot. You're not going to be able to be this way anymore. You don't fight in bars. You don't take people's head off anymore. Everybody's worried about the lawyers. But we can always have the story. That's the only thing I worry about with the kids of this era going on. They won't have the same stories we did. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just hoping, one of the things is, and the thing that's saddening is when we lost Butkus, we're about to lose McMichael. Dick is not in a good way. We're losing our legends. We're losing some really tough men, all testosterone. And it's too bad. But you know something? That's what YouTube's for now. The greatest invention there could be is YouTube, because we have our memories forever. So
Right.
the only thing that I can say is, as much as I complain with the Bears and what they get, that's going to be taken out for tonight. Because I'm hoping that Jack Sanborn, the linebacker, has the game of his life, and I hope the Bears have the game of their lives. Or Butkus. And there's a rest in peace to a tough old SOB.
Yeah, absolutely. And then swinging on over to George, and your thoughts about Dick Butkus.
Yeah, Scott and I were talking before we went on the air. As you know, he and I were both there at Tiger Stadium that terrible, terrible time when Chuckhughes died on the field, the Detroit Lions wide receiver. And I'll never forget that photograph of Dick Butkus. Now, I don't want to say hovering over the body, but standing over the fallen lion, and
Right.
his expression. He was getting, come on, doctors, come on, medical, come on. And his hands were in the air like this, come on for help. And say what you want. And those guys hated each other. The Lions had alexkarras and Darius McCord and Joe Schmidt. And, they played those, oh my God, the black and blue division, as it was called, the NFL. Oh my gosh, the rivalries, Chicago and Green Bay, and of course, Chicago and Detroit, and then later Detroit and Green Bay. Those teams just fought tooth and nail. But no, Ditka was a prince. He knew how to play this game. He knew how to come back. You don't have any time of him sitting out injuries because his fingernail got a little cut or something like that, or something like some of the strange injuries we see nowadays. He just strapped it on, went out there every day, played tough as hell. And my sympathy, of course, Jacob, to you, all the Bears fans in Bear Nation, and all the people that love pro football too, because as you said, Dens, he was voted the greatest linebacker of all time.
Yeah, one thing, as Jacob and actually you were talking, is Dick Butkus, we all agree, was from a much, much rougher era. And the average male in the United States lives to be about 74 years old. But he made it to 80, which is still like, he outlived, like, I guess that you could say the average male, so like, it's crazy. But I mean, the type of man that he was, because despite the hated rivalry between the two, there was a sense of decency that came over him and was like, hey, this is really serious. This man needs help. He's, the fallen line and everything. This man needs help. It's something, whenever something's bigger than football, it touches you a certain way. Whenever something's bigger than the sport, we all just saw Damar Hamlin just last year. He recognized something was bigger than the sport. This is a man's life, and so he most definitely had compassion. As many as he was on the field, he definitely had compassion. And lastly, I want to round it out with Scott and get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, well, I've covered a lot of football games in my lifetime, and I'm going to tell you right now, we talk about the physical, violent nature of the sport. I get that. Let me tell you, I've seen some career enders. Mike Utley was one of them. Everybody knows about that. I think Reggie Brown was another one. But Mike Utley, but the situation with Chuckhughes, to me, is one of those things that I'll never forget. I mean, I mentioned that in my book too, how my dad and I went to that game at Tiger Stadium. And I'm thinking about, I'm 8 years old when this happens. Okay, really? I mean, but yet you never, and yet you see, and yet to this day, it's the only death in an NFL game with Chuckhughes and Dick Butkus. So, you talk about the 2 and 3 day practices with pads. These guys are, gosh, it was brutal. I mean, but let's face the reality. Jacob mentioned it earlier. Stevemcmichael battling ALS. Mike Dick is getting up there as well. But I think, to me, and I've seen enough Bears, that Dick Butkus, to me, must go down as the greatest Chicago Bear of all time. I don't care what anybody says. I do believe that wholeheartedly. But say what you want about the physical nature, but you know what? How many times have you seen both teams stand over each other when there's a serious injury, especially more so nowadays? But it was then. When somebody goes down, it's one of your brothers is really what it is. I wish I would have had an opportunity to meet Dick Butkus and ask him about the youth thing, but it never worked out where our paths crossed. But let me tell you, I'm sure that there are a lot of people that have asked him, and, guys are tough, but they're really soft on the inside. And rest in peace, Dick. And it's just so weird how the football gods have him passing away on a Thursday night when the Chicago Bears are taking on the Commanders. It's funny. It's just strange how things work out.
It is.
Real quickly, I wanted to say this. It's like I said this on Twitter earlier. It amazes me how I did not even realize, because when the team was really, really good, when the Bears were really, really good, they were, this is my dad's era, 30s, 40s, 50s, that sort. You know what I mean? That's like, he didn't watch them, obviously, on that, but I'm just saying, that was those worlds. I didn't even realize how bad that team was. You know what I mean? And I didn't even realize how bad that team was, you know, until because I got the 80s. I got the 80s in Ditka. And then he left. And then back to the thing for the majority of life. You know what I'm saying? So that tells you everything about what this was. And guess what? Butkus never got a playoff. He never got a playoff game or a championship game. That wasn't fair to him. And it's this organization that has a lot to blame on that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, in ending this topic, our condolences to his family and to the Chicago Bears organization. And so, with that said, in cranking things up a notch, time for our pundit point. Now, Jacob, you said your pundit point was Dick Butkus, right?
Yeah, but I'm gonna mind if I have one. You mind?
Okay, yes, sure, no problem. I was gonna get mine first, real quick, and I'll pass it on.
You go ahead.
Okay, so here's my pundit point. So, New York Giants offensive tackle Evan Neal criticized his own fans. They were voraciously booing during the Monday night game against the Seahawks. And afterwards, he told the fans to boo louder. The Giants lost the game 24-3. Now, here's where I have pushback. They weren't booing y'all as people, Evan. They were booing your performance. You look like a junior college team out there. You look like you didn't even belong on your own field, okay? I want everyone to, before anyone's got any pushback to what I got to say, I want you all to keep in mind that twice in the last month, the Giants had primetime games at home. You know how many total points they scored in both games? Or 3 points. That's it. Now, some might say, well, the Seahawks are tough. The Cowboys are tough. One of them's a division game. You're supposed to rise up for your rivals, number one. Number two, you couldn't even put up a touchdown. You couldn't even put up 2 field goals. Mr. Evan Neal, that is why your fans are booing. You look nothing like the team last year, okay? So before you go and criticize your own fan, you should probably criticize yourself. And that's my pundit point. Jacob, what you got?
Besides that fact, I don't mind him criticizing fans because I hate fans, but I'll go with you on that. But this is my thing to Mike. I'm going to have an issue with this, with Pittsburgh. And, and with Pittsburgh and everything like this, they're going after, I'm going to say this is to Mark Madden. You're going after Mike Tomlin, calling him overrated. Calling him overrated, calling him, he just was living off Big Ben. Name one coach, that didn't live off of a quarterback.
Right.
Name one. Let me say this about Tomlin. Okay, you want him gone? I'm bringing the Brinks truck to his backyard, to Tomlin's backyard, within 30 seconds after he's gone.
Right.
Get him to Chicago. Yeah. I am, because there's something that he says every time. The standard is the standard. And the biggest thing about that standard is the fact that this is the 17th year. Think about this. Through all of those injuries in the training camp, through all of the issues that you have, through all the turmoils that you have with your team in locker rooms, through all the whatever you deal with, he had 13 different quarterbacks he played with, even with Big Ben. He had to play. 9 of them won a game, at least. 7 of them won 2 or more. With some really bad quarterbacks. All that. How many division titles does he have? He's gotten to a couple Super Bowls. How many of this? This is the thing about Mike Tomlin. This is one of the greatest ever. And yeah, he's struggling now, but even with the struggle, still has that. So you watch Pittsburgh struggle awful if he's gone and they don't get him right. that they don't if they do not replace him properly. You watch the disaster happen. And that's what I am saying. It's like you start appreciating him, Pittsburgh, because there's going to be a problem on your hands.
And one thing that I'll just point out is people need to keep in mind that the vast majority of his tenure in Pittsburgh, he was in the same conference as Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Phil Rivers, those guys. So yeah, it's easily, in my opinion, I think it is easy to say that it was tougher to win in the AFC than in the NFC. That's something he doesn't consider. So with that said, swing on to George. What you got for a pundit point?
Well, my pundit point is the Pat Fitzgerald situation. I know we'll probably talk about this at another time, but in case you did not hear, he's suing Northwestern for $130 million for wrongful termination. So this is another situation that we've seen so many times, and I know we'll touch on a little bit later in the program about the media jumping to conclusions and crucifying this guy. But not only the media, but the whole university came down on him real quick and without even any kind of explanation or letting him have his day in court, as the saying goes. So Northwestern, you got your hands full right now, not only in the Big Ten football race, but you got your hands full in the lawyer's office and in the courtroom probably, unless this could be settled out of court. But Pat Fitzgerald deserves his time to explain what his role, if any, was in the hazing of the Northwestern Wildcats students, football students, scholar athletes, I should say. And so it's just another occasion for us to be reminded that, hey, you better be careful about what you say, what you accuse, until all the facts are out.
Exactly. And that actually will link to one of our topics coming up. But with that said, last but not least, Fresh, glad to have you back, Uncle. Glad to have you back. He's here.
It's Unk.
Yeah. Uncle, sure, depending upon if I had a few or not. Hey, listen. From all of us here, great to see you made it out of there. You're recovering and you're great. You're right behind the microphone where you belong. Scotty Too Hottie, what is your pundit point, baby?
Thank you, guys. You know how much I missed being on last week, but unfortunately, I had other things to deal with. But no, it's been great being on all week, and they keep staying on until I can't do it or the man upstairs silences me. He's not silencing me tonight or anytime, hopefully soon. My pundit point is pretty straightforward, okay? Joel Embiid, Olympics, multi-citizenship. He decides he wants to play for the United States, more power to him. I really don't care. I mean, the reality is he plays for Philadelphia in the National Basketball Association in the United States for a living. If he feels that he wants to go ahead and represent the U.S. in the Olympics, more power to him.
All right. Absolutely. And so with that being said, those are our pundit points for the evening. And now on to our first topic, and that is the Trevor Bauer situation. It's been happening about like 2 years now. It kind of got forgotten about, but then some new things came about. So apparently both parties have settled the civil lawsuit outside of court. Trevor Bauer was accused of SA in spring of 2021. He was suspended by his team, the Los Angeles Dodgers, for 324 games. He went on to and is currently pitching in Japan. So Jacob, this is your handiwork, right?
Of course.
Well, before you do, though, Jacob, you have some business here to take care of in the chat room.
Can my boy russfrancis get some love? I'm sorry about that. Just because this came up today and we know it's bigger. He died just days ago and he didn't seem to get much love. An underrated tight end who made 3 Pro Bowls. The numbers he showed, he probably should have made 6 or even 7 Pro Bowls. He helped us get a ring and played quite a bit well in that Super Bowl as well. He was before my time, but not yours. Any insight as to why? Can you tell me a bit more about your thoughts on his play? On the side note, them boys aren't ready.
I distinctly remember Russ Francis on Tecmo Bowl on Nintendo. Whenever I would pick the Redskins, I would throw it to him or Ricky Sanders or one other speedster. But yes, absolutely. Russ Francis, I think he died actually yesterday or 2 days ago. Yes, underrated tight end of the 80s. in an era where, with the Mark Bavaros and such, and that's some tough tight ends coming out of the NFC. That's one thing that we don't talk about. Everyone talks about in college football the streak of the SEC and the national championships. But what about the streak in the NFL of 14 years of the NFC winning the Super Bowl?
Mm-hmm.
No one talks about that.
Right.
We're talking about, Jacobs Bears. We're talking about the Redskins, the Giants, all of them. It was John Elway that cut that streak off. But no, Russ Francis, definitely an underrated tight end.
Oh, absolutely. And you got to realize, I remember him on Techno Super Bowl. I was with you. I wish we would have played. I wish we would have known each other. We would have had some unbelievable games.
Yes.
Who did you play as, by the way?
On the original Tecmo Bowl, believe it or not, the Raiders or the Bears.
Hey, I do the Raiders if I was bored, just because I score 100 touchdowns. It was both.
Yeah.
By the way, Mike Arango, great comment. I'm glad you inserted that. That was really good.
Absolutely.
Russ Francis, we shouldn't really overlook him. I think the one thing people have to realize is that in today's day and age, most people don't remember him, but for a lot of us, especially that are at least over 50 or so or in that range, many of us can appreciate what he put on the field. So, Mike, well, thank you very much for bringing up Russ. Rest in peace as well, Russ. Okay, go ahead.
Absolutely. And the thing is, I'm one of the youngest ones. My thing is, I actually remember him playing. I am absolutely one of the youngest ones to remember all these names and see them absorb it. Because the ones I talk to when I talk about this, I'm 45. The ones I talk to are 58 to 60.
Yeah.
About these years, but I'm 6 years old and able to absorb and just keep on going,
Mm-hmm.
So hell of a player, great player. And it was like, and we didn't, I don't know how much we would have talked about it if this didn't happen. I'm glad you brought that up, but it's like, Butkus is the most known name. So I am sorry that we missed him, but Russ Francis is a great player.
Well, that's what you have a chat room for. So those are the things that we missed. Guys like Michael Arango go out there and bring them up so we can bring them up. We come up with ideas, but we're always welcome to more of those as well. So good stuff, Michael. All right, now on to Trevor Bauer. Okay, go ahead. Continue.
Go ahead, Jacob.
Well, thing about Trevor Bauer, it's now, and here the thing is, we just heard this with the text messages that came up with him. They also just came up with the Mel Tucker case. They came up with the Mel Tucker case too. Yes, she said she's down to her last $5. She's going after his money. He said it in a text himself. This is the thing. I have the title I made tonight, and it's like the downfall of the downfall of #MeToo. Because the thing about it was we went after some scuzzy people. Bill Cosby went after Harvey Weinstein. We went after some scuzzballs. But in the midst of it, what did I say in the middle of all of this? I said they started making, and guess what? Matt Damon tried to say it, and he got absolutely backlash for it. He tried to say they said looking at a girl's ass is the same as assault. They kept trying to say it, and this was going to hurt them. Now we have women willingly lying to try to get something off out of revenge, out of whatever. And you brought up Brian Banks. You brought him up. And it's like, I don't want Me Too to be the downfall in this way if it can bring down scuzzballs, but it's going to be if the women lie. And it's like, and the more the women lie, the more we lose the real assaults. It's just true. The more we lose the real assaults, the more we're going to lose this. Period. End of story. It's got to stop. Every ounce of it.
It does, because it takes away from the real victims out there, you know, and it's the very reason why they don't get believed. Well, I want to swing it over to George and get your thoughts about this whole thing.
Yeah, very troubling. But, again, like I alluded to earlier, it's another case of many people, including some of the media, jumping to conclusions. The fact of the matter was, he wasn't charged criminally, but the arbitrator for baseball, unprecedented 324 game suspension. It was reduced to 194 games by an independent arbiter in December of last year. But now this whole thing has come up, and Bauer sued the woman, she countersued, And the settlement calls for no exchange on either side of money between the two parties. It's just a shame, people are unfortunately narrow-sighted. They want just something for them. They want something for them. They want money for them. They want vengeance or whatever they want, revenge. But the thing is you got to let all the facts come out. You got to let the truth come out. Now, he does have one more lady that accuses him from Arizona. It was a different accusation. That has not been settled yet. And I'm not sure where it stands in the legal process. But again, Bauer was never arrested or charged. But I still think that, this is not a good trend. If we have people lying about these incidents, we have people making stuff up. And then, like you mentioned, Jacob, then the thing comes out today about the Mel Tucker situation with the young lady, wanting a name and wanting money to help her out. Well, that's a whole nother story. But no, I think that the media's got to be very cautious, but they never are. We can say it till we're blue in our face. They want to jump to guilt and accusations and right away in a lot of these cases, and that is not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair to Bauer. It's not fair to other people that have been involved.
It's their revenge on men.
Yeah,
men in general. There's this whole, they say the word patriarchy all the time, which is absolutely drives me absolutely up the wall, because it hasn't been a true patriarchy for years. Not with the way that women get into boardrooms now, not to the way that they get. Now, I'm not saying that men still don't have a lot of power, they do, but the true patriarchy that we're talking about the Mad Men era. We're talking about that era. That hasn't been around for years. So they got to quit saying this type of thing to try to get shame out of men. They're going to have to try this. But what we have now is all of this type of deal. The women that really have the issue, we're going to go back. We're going back again to, we're not going to believe them. And that is unfortunate, because there are legit, there are legit ones that have assaults within the house, the domestic assaults, beaten up. And here's the thing with him, what we brought up completely and utterly throughout that whole thing, I said it when we first talked about this, a year ago or so? Mm-hmm. We talked about it the first time. I said this itself. Guy has got a violent sex fetish. I said this in the first place. That's what his thing is. He's not as innocent of thing. He's got a violent sex fetish. He's got a problem of his own on that. But she came over twice. She came over twice for this. He was choked. He did all this kind of stuff. He bruised her up, and then she loved it, and then came back again. Then she got him. And it's like it looked like to him that she loved it. It was part of their little deal. And it's like, I'm not going to say he's right for what his is. I'm saying she lied to get money, and she put it on a text. I want some of that $51 million. Mm-hmm. She played him to do that. And it's like, and no, he's not innocent in his own right. He has a rough personality. He has a rough personality. He needs to learn to be easy. He needs this to be his wake-up call about what he does with women. He does. But let me tell you this right now. When she says something like this, she has her own guilt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and whenever and to your point, whenever, you're rough like that, even if it's consensual, they have the evidence to turn it around and make it criminally, non-consensual and to try to get something out of it. And then to George's point,
she had bruises all over her.
Exactly my point.
Yeah.
Exactly my point. And then to George's point, about the media, and my professors hammered this into me while I was in college. Nowadays with the media, it's not about who's right or what's right. It's about who's first. Who's the first to get that tweet out there? Who's the first to report it on television? Who's the first to put on the radio? We have to be before anybody else. It's no longer about who's right. It's about who's first. Who gets the news out there first? And I know TMZ has taken a lot of heat over the years behind it too. But lastly, I want to take it to Scott, and let's get your thoughts about this.
Well, you really are setting me up for this one. That's why you stuck me at the end. All right, everybody wants to know about first. Okay, go back in my book when it's released, because one of the biggest people in this book is Frank Reynolds. How many times have I heard that name? I know Mr. Christner has looked at over 9 million times. Yeah, give me a break. I mean, it's one of the things I tell you right now, working on both television, radio, and whatnot. It's not first about getting it right. Now, let's keep a couple things in perspective with this whole thing. And he said versus she said business, okay, consensual, whatever. Ever heard of innocent till proven guilty? Well, this society doesn't appear to have heard it too much, or maybe not loud enough. But the one thing that can't get lost, and you have 329 game suspension reduced to 194, with all this stuff going out there, the guy's losing an income. But here's the thing that's interesting about this when it's all said and done. His agent, Rachelluba, I mean, this woman here is an unbelievable agent because she works on lawyers' fees, not a percentage, was able to swing a deal to get him to play ball in Japan. And you know what? The amazing part about it is they love him over in Japan. I can tell you how many players that I've spoken to in the past that they love Japan, different animal. Okay, you play baseball, you work hard, and you make a name for yourself out there. So, let's talk about Sadahara O and where Shohei Ohtani and all these guys came from. Well, Trevor Bauer's doing the best he can to make a lot of tough situation. So I guess down the line, if it ever cools down a little, will we ever see him in MLB? I don't know. Maybe down the road we'll address it, but not tonight because I know we're stacked with other stuff to do. But hats off to Rachel, though. At least she found an alternative for her client to play ball overseas in Japan. Ray's appreciated. I know there will be a lot more news coming out of this. That's why I don't want to jump the gun on it and go be premature. But folks, innocent until proven guilty. How many times have you? I mean, we can even go deeper into Deshaun Watson. How many people, when you got into the scandal, they decided not to talk about it. Blah blah blah. The list goes on and on. But really, I mean, I will say one thing about Jacob's point. He does need to get it figured out mentally, okay, about not messing with the opposite sex for all the wrong reasons, because knowing that he's in a higher income echelon, he's a target to be collected. And one last thing I want to add to it is what about Michael Irvin recently and that incident that he had out at the Super Bowl? Well, guess what? He got a nice little pretty penny out of that one because, again, everybody was premature. How many times premature? You know what? Sometimes what I like to do with my wife is if I meet somebody, I like to have her with me as well, because if I don't understand somebody, she's there. And then when you have someone there, then it's not he said versus she said, but you have another person just to make sure that, there's an extra set of eyes to make sure that things don't get thrown out of proportion and overly fabricated. So.
Absolutely. Covering yourself in the process. Yes, it's definitely going to be more news that comes out of this.
Yeah.
For all we know, you may not even want to come home. You may love it in Japan so much, you may stay there. But
don't kid yourself.
You might.
I wouldn't rule that out. I thought about that myself. If he likes it in Japan, he's getting paid good money, he's revered. You might find Trevor Bauer in the Japanese Baseball Hall of Fame the way he's playing. And if you like him overseas, he doesn't have a track record except for the one he's putting in front of you. It may seem so far-fetched, but Denzel, you're not too far off with that one. I'm jumping on drinking the Denzel Kool-Aid on that.
Yeah, if you
great taste. Let's
great taste, less feeling. I mean, if you can go somewhere, yeah, if you go somewhere and you're the king over there, why would you move?
Right.
No, when things are going that well. GMTA, that's the GMTA moment. All right.
Absolutely. Well, we do have to move on to our next topic, and that is the Frozen Frenzy, NHL's version of NFL Red Zone. So basically what it is it's going to be whip around coverage of NHL games as they are in action. It debuts October the 24th. And also it's going to begin on ESPN2 at 8 p.m. Eastern. It's going to run through 11 p.m. Eastern. This is a great concept right here. Of course, it works, with the NFL, and I foresee other entities following suit most definitely, because trends happen in the United States. When they see a level of success, they want to copy it, modify it, or whatever. But I actually was surprised that it was only the NFL doing it. I thought the NBA was doing it, but no, I definitely see more to come out of it. I think it's going to be a great success, because for the diehard NHL fans out there that can't get to a sports bar and watch multiple screens, or maybe don't have multiple televisions or anything like that, and to keep from having to switch back and forth, they can just watch the whip around coverage, watch Frozen Frenzy, and then they can get their fix right there from all or most of the games. So, Scott, what do you got on this one? Your thoughts on Frozen Frenzy?
Call it a brilliant move. Brilliant. I can't believe it took this long to do it, but I'm glad that ESPN went out there and made this decision. We all know the NFL version has been fine. I don't think it would work with the NBA because the scoring is too fast and rampant that nobody can keep up with it unless a real pivotal dunk or anything like that. Baseball, I think they have something close to it on MLB Network, so they're always following it. But for the National Hockey League, this move is absolutely brilliant. I love it. And I'm glad that ESPN2 is going to do it, because let's face it, they've invested a lot into the NHL property, and it's good programming, and they're not overpaying up the wang for it either. The NHL is not one of their highest paid properties when you look at what else they have. But the NHL has been good for ESPN. I'm glad it's being heavily broadcast on ESPN/ABC in addition to the Turner Network. But this is the only thing that I think was really missing. So I'm totally all in favor of it. I really, really am.
Great. Yes, most definitely. I'm with you on that one. I was shocked that they didn't come out with this, maybe 5 or 10 years ago. But hey, maybe a Johnny come lately moment, but better late than never. I want to swing it over to George, big resident Red Wings fan, and your thoughts about Frozen Frenzy.
Objective. I'm an objective Red Wings fan.
Hey, absolutely.
Goes without saying.
Journalism 101. I'm neutral. Yeah. Well, listen, I'm happy for it. It's taking place October 24th. And, Scott and I had many conversations over the years about this and how the NHL was blowing it by not getting ESPN. There are all kinds of reasons why. They went to CBS, they went to NBC, Fox. Well, finally, with the new contract that came out a couple of years back, ABC, ESPN, that whole family, Hulu, is behind the NHL, and it's long overdue. But am I happy about it? Heck yeah. I mean, everybody's playing that night, October 24th. All 32 teams are playing.
All 32 teams will play,
There's going to be coverage of every game, all 16 games, from, like you said, Denzel, from the first puck drop till later in the evening at nighttime for many on the East Coast. But Frozen Frenzy, I'm happy for it. It's about time they got this. And it is a show, a sign, that hockey is becoming more and more accepted as an attraction, if you will. Because don't forget, there's a lot of parts of our nation that could care less about hockey. And we've got some great teams in great cities, the South, the West, all over now. But the NHL needs as much exposure as they can get. But they have a good partner. They have a good partner now with ESPN. Mm-hmm. Took a long time to get ESPN back in the fold for NHL, but I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be really exciting.
Well, let me point out a couple of other things too. For years, the NHL had a hard time getting a national television contract anyway.
True.
And then if you think about it and put it in perspective, they had to buy their airtime to get on. That's how bad things are. Not like the other sports where you got fees rights, but the NHL, it's been a struggle. But now they finally have it to a point where they're able to get paid for their product, and why not? But many years ago, and I wrote stories on this for the Detroit Monitor as well as my publication, South Florida Tribune, that when you look at these struggles, people had a hard time following the puck, and they were trying to do so many things. I can remember, this is way before your time, when in 1972, George, I think it wasn't it the Montreal Canadiens and the Chicago Blackhawks, and the CBS had the Stanley Cup Finals, Canada versus United States, and Dan Kelly and Jim Gordon were doing the broadcast. And it was one of those North American things where, yes, Jacob, we're talking about a Chicago team. Okay, whether you were
I'm a Blues fan actually, but yeah.
You were a huge fan somewhere, but it wasn't probably on Earth, because this one happened in 72. But I'm telling you, the NHL has been a struggle to get on TV, let alone paying for it. So I think they've come from that point, okay, to where they're at now. And remember, they've had a lot of great American announcers in recent years. When you talk about Doc, Mike Emmerich, Gary Thorne, the list goes on and on.
Dave Strader, the late Dave Strader.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Detroit. Yeah, but there have been a lot of great, Doc Emmerich, Dan Kelly, just to name a couple, Gary Thorne. But I won't get into that. But I'm glad they've gotten to this point, from a point where they couldn't get a TV contract. For many years ago, they used to get games on. So.
Yeah, I mean this. I wouldn't be surprised if they're treating it like the pinnacle. But it's most definitely great for the sport. But I want to round it out with Jacob Christner and your thoughts about this. You for it?
Oh yeah. Here's the thing. If there's a sport that needs it, it is hockey. And I'm saying this.
Right.
We talk about I am somebody who loves hockey. I can watch the whole thing, especially the Stanley Cup playoffs. Absolutely huge. All you guys are big fans. Casuals are hard to get. You know why? Puck rolls around the ice, goes around the net. Yeah, and then someone gets hit. Okay, that looks pretty cool. But then the puck's under the guy. They're digging under the goalie. They're digging under it. You know what I'm talking about. They're trying to get tweet. They're trying to get that. That's a lot of the game, especially if you watch Mike Keenan's hockey. And he was throwing it out and hopefully someone chased it. That was his idea of coaching. Mm-hmm. So that's the whole thing. That will bore a casual. So when you're getting into a situation like something like this, you are doing all power plays. You're doing all the goals. You're doing all of that kind of stuff in the moment. It's kind of the equivalent of the better version of the laser on Fox.
Yes.
You're getting people in. You're getting people in and making it interesting because people can't follow the puck. Now you're giving them a chance to follow the puck because it's all going to go in the goal, or it's on a power play, or it's in the playoffs.
Yep, absolutely. Hence NFL Red Zone. They always tune in when someone's in the red zone. So no, this will be definitely great. And reminded, I think it was like the mid '90s that they had the special effects with the puck to make it look like a colored fireball.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I always wonder why they did away with that.
Peter Puck on NBC with Tim Ryan and Ted Lindsay.
Yeah. Those were the days, but no, shout out to the NHL for a huge score in this one. I won't call it a steal. A long time coming, should I say, an overdue paycheck, should I say? But want to go on to our next topic because we do have to get Scott and the crew out for the next show, and that is the attendance at Tropicana Field. So for context here, 2 days ago, the 2023 American League Wild Card Series Game 1 had the lowest attendance for a Major League Baseball playoff game in 104 years. Only 19,704 turned out at Tropicana Field. I was watching the game while I was working, and I saw many empty. It looked like a spring training game. It looked like a preseason game. I was like, this can't be a home playoff game. Like, a lot of empty seats. It's the smallest crowd, excluding the pandemic, since Game 7 of the 1919 World Series. The Rangers were going to win that game and ultimately sweep them 2-0 in the series. But I really wanted to start this off with Scott because you spent time in Tampa. You know Tampa. You got a degree in Tampa. Okay?
Yeah,
so your thoughts about this and, for an area that within the last 5 years had been nicknamed Champa Bay, because the Rays did go to a World Series in 2020. They did win a Super Bowl in 2020. The Lightning had won several Stanley Cups. What's up with this? Like, how did this happen?
Gosh, where do I start? I'm glad you let off with me on this. As my brother would say, Lonnie, you're watching great. I'll mention you no matter what. Tampa's one of my many hometowns. Of course, proud USF Bulls graduate. Why they're building their new stadium next to Tropicana Field is a mystery to me. Maybe that's the only place that they could put it. I don't know. The only puncher's chance that they have is if they develop the area, and that is it. If you've ever been in a traffic jam on 275 across the Howard Franklin Bridge, it is brutal. All I can tell you is if you want to listen to a lot of music while you're stuck in that, good luck. Okay. I know for many years they tried to get it. They've tried to get it on the Hillsborough side, Tampa side. But when you're looking for a location for the better part of 13 years and you settle here, well, you're going to settle here. But even when I was watching First Take the other day, Stephen A. Smith was interviewing Robmanfred, the commissioner. Even Manfred looked like, oh, I had to settle for St. Petersburg. Otherwise, I'm going to be in trouble. We can't expand by a couple of teams, blah, blah, blah. But think about it. You're going to a Major League Baseball playoff game with Tampa, and you're getting 19 to 20,000. That is awful. The Tampa Bay area is a great sports area. I know that. There's a Midwest mentality where you have a lot of people from the Midwest come there, in addition to a very good local base as well. But I'm going to say this, and I've been saying it forever, still a bad location. I don't care. Don't give me that business about the suddenness that they just scheduled the game. Give me a break. You're talking about a team that, by the way, started the year 13-0.
13-0.
Right, and then they got swept in 2 games. And even when they started 13-0, I happened to be covering the Red Wings and the Lightning back then. And I know while enthusiasm was high, I looked at the quality of the opponent and said, well, let's see if they see this to the end. Are they going to be making history for all the right or wrong reasons? Well, that question was answered the other day that they started off 13-0 and they ended the year 0-2. Go figure. But why? Tropicana, I go back to location. I don't care what anybody says. And it's not going to get any better. The only thing that'll change is they're going to have a lower seating capacity. They'll probably draw more revenues off of luxury boxes and a lot of the other amenities so they can be more financially solid. But it's unfortunate. I still say bad location.
And that's respectable. That's very respectable, because also keep in mind, and mind you, this is after in the playoffs they added another seed, a 6th seed, and then for so long the MLB playoffs was the league championship series and then the World Series. And then keep in mind that prior to 1968, the MLB playoffs was the World Series. The pennant was awarded to the best win-loss record at the end of the regular season. You got a berth to the World Series. And then they started, adding more throughout the decades. But even with the addition of the wild card series and the 6th seed, I still say baseball is the hardest sport to get into the playoffs. The hardest sport. Hockey plays what? They play 82 games, but even then they have 8 seeds per conference. You still have 6 teams per league that make it, and they play 162 games. That's still the hardest sport to make it. So this is just me, but I expect it better from the Tampa fans, because as hard as it is to make the postseason, and they made it, and virtually no one turned out. I do agree with you. Maybe it could be a location issue. Maybe things will change once the new stadium is built. But I want to go over to George and get your thoughts about this also.
Well, let me just reiterate one thing before we turn over to George Denzel. Okay, for that whole situation with the new stadium to be what it is, if there's ever an area that needs redevelopment, it's that one. It just is, because obviously, you're going to have to demolish the old stadium. And if they can redevelop that area, then I could certainly feel that there might be hope for the Tampa Bay Rays long-term survival. But right now, there's not a lot of development around it. But again, that's what the project entails, as a lot of development. I've always said Tampa Bay is a great sports area. I do believe that Major League Baseball can do well. Great stadium, development around there, no problem. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the Tampa Bay area being like a Twin Cities where you can have one team across the bay and then the other one there, and then you look at it collectively. So, maybe bad area. No, I've been to that stadium a few times of my own, and don't get me wrong, at least they have a dome that they'll be building so you don't lose games because of weather. Then again, they had one at the Trop as well. But that's the key, redevelopment for this to go out there and work. Okay, George, go ahead.
Are you sure?
No, not really. Just being a former Tampa resident, I'm never sure about anything except
just a terrible black eye on baseball. That was ridiculous. That kind of crowd, 19,000. The support is shallow. The support is not as strong as in Detroit for the Tigers, as in Chicago for the Cubs, as in St. Louis for the Cardinals. Come on, guys. Let's just face the facts. That support in Tampa is shallow. it's not strength, it's not a strong suit, and it's not something that is easy to turn around, even after all these years, even after Kevin Kennedy, even after all these teams that have made the playoffs. And a little bit of bad batting. Okay, so Tampa Bay hit 161 in 4 playoff games over the last 2 years. So there's a problem with obviously something happening with the team and not being sharp in the postseason. But no, I agree with everything Scott said. I lean on him for his expertise in the location of this stadium and some of the challenges being faced. But boy, it doesn't make it any better. Sure, it's the first round of the playoffs, best 2 out of 3 only, but still you got to win them to advance. So the support is just not as strong as in the other cities we have in the major leagues. But I'm telling you one thing, we won't have to worry about it anymore because they've been eliminated. So now you got Minnesota and Texas, and you got Baltimore and Houston in the American League. So you'll get sellouts at all those places. Even Minnesota. Minnesota years ago had trouble too selling tickets for the postseason. You guys might remember that for the Twins, but then it picked up. It has picked up, and I think those were both sellouts. The 2 games in Minnesota this week when they defeated Toronto. But yeah, enough. Tampa Bay, you got your work cut out for you to bring fans.
Well, had things have gone the way they were supposed to, but St. Petersburg beat Tampa to the punch. They built that stadium with the intent that they're going to lure the White Sox and the San Francisco Giants. None of that happened by having a stadium ready. But that the Tampa side was supposed to be right next, adjacent to, Tampa Stadium, and, right near Al Lopez Field. So they were going to have adjoining stadiums, one next to each other, the NFL and, as it turns out, MLB. But, Tampa said, that's okay, you can have it. And that's why I never got there in the first place. But that's what should have happened. And I wrote on that. And, well, look where we're at. So.
Well, and before I swing it over to Jacob, how about I throw another angle at you? Could it be a case of team favoritism in that city? Because think about it. You got the Lightning, right? Even though they've won those Stanley Cups as of late. Then you got the Tampa Bay Rays, who have been to a couple of World Series. The king in that city are the Buccaneers. They were the first team there. They've always been there. And then the others followed. Could it be a case of team favoritism? That the favorite son is always going to be the Bucs. It's always going to be the Bucs.
Well, you know what? It always will be the Bucs to some extent. But you know what? I kind of disagree with that a little bit because as of late, the Tampa Bay Lightning's incredible success to me, and I've seen, if you've ever been to a game over at that stadium, it's unbelievable. I mean, the electricity there is unbelievable, and their success has been great. I think the Tampa Bay Rays, without doubt, could be, do really, really well if they can put more people in. We know as there, and they're playing great baseball with, like Coach Commissioner Manfred said, they're playing good ball, and you don't have to have a big payroll to do it. So, yeah, we all know the NFL was king there. It's the first sport that was ever there. No different than when you're in Phoenix, where the Suns will always be your first franchise. They're your first love, right? Then the other ones came later on. Right. So, you always want to think that was your first child. You always feel good about it. But there's some validity to that, but there isn't, because if you've ever been to a hockey game there and the way they do things in Tampa, holy moly.
It's electric. I can most definitely see that. And I only say that, and before I swing it to Jacob, it's because I thought about his point about if America were to win the World Cup. Right. Countries that win the World Cup around the world, they're going to celebrate that for 4 years until the next tournament. The United States will celebrate for 3 days, and then, what's LeBron doing? Yeah. What's Tom Brady doing?
Less than that. If it's LeBron, you'd be seeing LeBron at the game.
Yeah, what's James Harden doing? He going back to Houston or something? Yeah, it'll be a short-term celebration. It won't be that big of a deal. But
when you started, that was a show you could have been on last night. I'd have given you. But you know what, Denzel? When you come on next Wednesday night, Sports Exchange, I'm going to let you talk on that topic because you didn't make it last night. So that's
okay. You know what? So give me a week to look it over. I have something ready for you. But Jacob, your thoughts on this topic right here?
Real quick update: Bears 17, Commanders nothing. Early second quarter.
I'm watching it. Fields actually looks like a pro.
Yeah. Yeah. 2 touchdowns. Yeah. It's they're going to town. But anyway. They're going to town. But the biggest thing, and I'm happy, but biggest thing about this is another thing about Tampa. Everything's visual now. Everything. Look at Allegiant Stadium. My brother luckily got to go. He got to go see the place. And you want to know what he gets at a halftime? He gets Lil Wayne. He gets Lil Wayne at halftime, and it's like it's all the smoke and all everything. I get all the pictures and all they're got. What you know what they're coming into? A video screen, a whole video screen. Go to Las Vegas, another part of Las Vegas, the Sphere, all that immersive thing. You look like a pumpkin, everything like that. What does Tampa Stadium? What does Trop look like? A prison. It looks like I'm just saying this, guys. Besides the fact that we already know what the room is around there. There's not a whole lot of it to begin with. And it's a great area, but the stadium looks like an absolute prison. It's hard to be able to put things around it to boot to be able to get this. So it's very tough. And then we did say a little bit. You brought it up, Scott. You brought this up. Yeah, we talked, but the thing is they were terrible with their scheduling. They were miserable with the scheduling, but it felt like with the scheduling that they wanted to get Tampa out of the way. It just did. 3 o'clock and you can't get fans, and they knew it. So they knew it. And the biggest thing about it is they won 13 in a row. They won 13 in a row against bad teams. They did.
Right.
They against bad teams. A good team this year, but they were. But I'm just saying, these are a bunch of things whatsoever. The Braves are the best team in baseball. I have no doubt in my mind, but it's like, and they even started slow.
Had a slow
little,
start,
but I mean, it's 500 to them is like 5-5, whatever. Then blow up. But that's the Braves. I mean, if the Rays would have gotten hot and gotten against the Braves, it would have been a 4-game sweep. It wouldn't have been close. But they're just, you have to see these 2-0 games and see something like this to happen in 27 hours. To understand some are not going to belong in that big moment. And the thing about Tampa right now is they're talking about a new stadium. They need the visual to get people in so they have the momentum, so that they have the lines for noise. They need all this. It's just a different world. The Bears are also trying. I mean, Soldier Field's looking boring to everybody now. It's just the world we live in. Everybody wants the visuals. And we're going to be talking about the next one coming up about the visuals with the game, with the Toy Story game.
Yep. That's a great segue. And actually, before I segue to it, just curious, Scott, how's the food in Tampa?
Fantastic. I like the food.
Pretty good?
Mm-hmm. It's very good.
Yeah, I have my favorite restaurants when I go there. Speaking of which, I'll be going there actually next week, cover USF against FAU. And you know what? I'm glad we're talking about this topic tonight, because what I'll do is maybe on a future edition of Pundit, okay, I'll have more insights from the folks in the Tampa Bay area when I cover that game over at Raymond James Stadium. So I'm gonna put my content hunter's hat on there. In addition to the college football game, I want to find out a little bit more what went into it. Obviously, St. Petersburg wanted it more than Tampa, but there's a lot more to this thing than meets the eye. It really is, and I'm going to tell you what, I will find out more. Mark my word, and we will talk about it again, maybe in a future edition of Pundit, maybe not for as long as we are tonight, but my goal is to provide more clarity on what we've already addressed tonight. So, but the food is great. Lots of great steaks, hamburgers, you name it. How can I say it? And for me, I got to say this when I go to the Tampa Bay area, I have a handful of favorite restaurants I go to, and especially when I go back to my hometown of Detroit. I spend a whole 5-6 days going to the places I used to go. So Tampa's only 4 hours away. Detroit's a whole lot further if you drive it in a 2.5 hour flight, let alone all the extracurricular stuff that allows you to get from one airport to another. But really good, just so you know, fans.
Okay, sounds good. And we'll do the fourth topic really quick because I know you got to get on. You and George have a double header. And this one here is for the kids, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Toy Story game of last week. Atlanta versus Jacksonville in London. So it was dubbed the Toy Story Fun Day Football. They had special effects for touchdowns and celebrations, etc. If you were to look at it, actually it was very creative because it wasn't like it was live action, but they modeled the effects, the Toy Story effects, off of what was really going on. It looked like a video game / like action figures just kind of coming to life and moving around. And you saw Trevor Lawrence throw the ball and everything, and it was great. It probably looked more like a PlayStation game from the 90s than anything, but or maybe even N64. But no, it was really great, and it was similar to Slime Time NFL on Nickelodeon. Jacob, I know you recall they actually had a Bears Saints playoff game that was on Nickelodeon,
Yeah.
and it was great effects. I think it is wonderful, you all. I think it's a great way to integrate. Because look at it like this. All of us on the screen, how do we get introduced into football? We watched it with our dads. We watched it with our uncles.
Yeah.
Nothing flashy. Nothing, special effects or nothing. No, we sat there and watched that grainy screen and listening to John Madden and
Pat Summerall.
Plant Summerall,
Thank you.
screaming on CBS, right? We sat there and watched it. Some of y'all might have had rabbit ears, antennas, or whatever. However you watch the game, it's fine, But nowadays, these kids are getting a blessing because they're getting a kids effect to it. And mind you, they'll eventually grow up and watch the actual, the same stuff that we watch and all. But for now, it's great. I think it is an awesome creative way to integrate children into football is to put their favorite things and mix it with it and give them a great deal of entertainment. So real quick, Scott, your thoughts about this?
Number one, the game was on ESPN Plus, and I didn't see it, so I'll take your words for it. You had it on ESPN Plus. So for me, great idea. Didn't see it. More power to them.
All right, and George, what do you think?
Yeah, Scott, I'm with you. I didn't see it either. But the fact of the matter is that you have to attract the youngsters. You have to attract, like Jacob was saying about the baseball. You must have this visible, visual kind of atmosphere and things that they can relate to. You want to cultivate and grow your future fans. So I think it's a good thing for the NFL. They're not making you watch it on that station. You don't have to watch it on Nickelodeon or wherever it was on Disney Channel or whatever. You don't have to. You can watch the regular broadcast. But Scott and I just couldn't watch it. But a lot of people don't know what we're talking about. But the fact is like the NFL's trying something different. They're trying to attract that age group, and all the more power to them.
Yeah, as they should. Let's face the reality. A lot of your grassroots football starts in youth football, right? And then it carries on to high school as well as college, and we know the end result. So, yeah, more power to them. It's just one of those situations where, you do have to appeal to the younger audience. This week, believe it or not, the Jaguars will play the Buffalo Bills in England again, but it will be on the NFL Network, just so you know.
Yes, it will. When you get the chance, YouTube it. It's like a 5-minute clip. It's very creative. Lastly, want to round it out with Jacob and your thoughts on this.
For one thing, I had to watch it that way because I sure as heck didn't want to watch Desmond Ritter live. But it was terrible. He was horrible. But here's the thing. On YouTube, there is a preseason game in 1969 between the Bears and Packers. 68-69. Black and white. This is the screen. If they went down the field, they had to move the cameras. They had to move to get down to that thing in the first place. One step. It's that way. It's kind of like the old pro wrestling when they just had one spot. You didn't go out or anything.
Yeah, it was on CCTV, way in the corner of the arena.
Yep. Visual. Now we're getting this. And the thing is, I put it on Facebook and Twitter. I'm like, I want the hook. They put a little hook to bring the ball down. And just the hook kind of looked like one of those grabber things you get for little dolls and everything, like in those little games, the claw game. It's what it looks like.
The claw arcade. Yeah,
yeah, it was awesome. Yeah. But I hated the Nickelodeon thing originally, the ideas. But I had to remember this. A buddy of mine that I haven't seen it in a while, he told me this one time. 53% of kids watch it the way we used to. Yep. They have to get their attention now. They can't watch a whole thing. So if you're going to get – and plus the big thing about football to save them. This is the truth. If there's a big, giant hit, it won't be shown with the kids. It'll still be shown as like a regular tackle. When us adults are going, boom, seeing the big collision, they're still going to see –
we're seeing a violent car crash. They're seeing a fender bender. And that's acceptable.
That's actually a smart move so you can get the thing. And it's going to get, because the way that the injuries are going, the way that moms are acting like, this is the way that's going to get the moms to settle it down to watching football.
It is. The only thing that I will say, and nothing against it, the only thing that I will say is kids, they're always curious and they ask questions. So when they see that fender bender and they see him not moving, they're gonna ask, why is he not moving?
Well, they're probably gonna go on to Woody and Buzz and everything like
Something
that.
like that.
They're probably gonna,
that too.
yeah, either way, yes.
Yeah,
But it's been guys, I wanted to say it's been a tremendous show tonight, really, and I'm glad to see you back, Scott. We're glad to see you back as the old grump that you are.
Oh, thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Denzel. Thanks, George. Yeah, listen, you know what? As I said before on previous shows, Sideline Sports did a good job getting Pundits Fun going. And all we're glad to do is just bring it on our network so that we can take it to places beyond where you were at, more so on the audio side. And I know Denzel gets, ramped up when we talk about Spotify when he's driving all over these bigger drives. I'm glad to be back. I appear on my fair share of shows every week, and I really enjoy it, and that's, how I've lived. When you think about it, you got a guy here that has a microphone on for a chain, okay? And I've always thought that a microphone is like a lollipop for a kid. You can never enough of it. So, and I even have a couple other ones here too. In my, look at this, Denzel. See this, my man? Look at this guy. Well, oh yeah, look at that. Look, there you go. Here's another one.
Oh, you guys.
And then I got another one.
Oh.
So this is good stuff, man. And my book cover is going to have a microphone on it as well. So
Jacob, here's my microphone. It's just a pencil. I got a pencil microphone. I can do that.
Okay, no. You can be Bob Barker.
That's
but
right. Out
of this crew, George is Warren Buffett and Scott is Charlie Munger. He is the truthful grumpy guy. Scott is. George is the nice guy that smiles.
I have no problem with you saying that to me. It really didn't matter to me. No, but really, in all fairness, okay, speaking, I love doing all these shows. They're a lot of fun, not only to prep, but be able and be the executive producer and prep, but to be able to carry them through. But, I think the one thing that we can't lose sight of is I know what Denzel and Jacob, it took a lot for you guys to move it to your regular Wednesday night to do it to a Thursday night format, regardless of whether football was going on, because we know what we have is strong. And I think a lot of the things that we're working on South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network is coming up with good magazine shows. Anybody can sit here and give you the updates all day long. I don't care about that stuff, man. It's about human interest stories, the 60 Minutes type to 2020, and the list goes on. And that's the thing I like about Pundits Pundit as well, is it gives us that magazine effect. And that's the one thing that we all contribute to the topic matter, as well as some of the other ones. I mean, Jennifer Matthews Lewis and Candy Epling contribute topic wise, and all the input that we have here amongst the people behind the scenes is every bit as important what we do on the forefront. So the depth we have on this show in terms of knowledge and ideas is incredible. But for you guys to say those kind words to me, thank you very much. I really miss you guys. Yeah. And I don't like to take any more times off than I can, but sometimes things are on my control. But no, I've been feeling pretty good all week. The energy's there. The Diet Mountain Dew has been there. And as you can hardly tell, right, Denzel? But I don't drink it after 6 because my other half goes ahead and cuts me off at a certain time.
Next time you are going to do a show from your bed.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
you better hope I'm not.
Make sure your little thing is not open in the back. We just don't need to see that.
That's all right. Never, Jacob, let's just say TMI on that one, all right, buddy? Because that's there for a TMI moment. That might be one of them. No, but really, we're glad we're back in the rotation here on Pundits Pundit.
Yep.
Exactly.
Denzel, Jacob, George and I are just glad that you guys feel good enough about us to have us as this foursome. And we just, George and I, we've done a lot of shows over the years, but George, what would you say this one ranks with a lot of stuff we've done?
Oh, right at the top.
Yeah.
And that sports exchange, that original sports exchange with Scott and I and Phil Guastella, we talk about a magazine format, 6 hours from 6 till midnight. Try doing that on a Saturday night. Boy,
and that doesn't count the pre-prep that we put into that too. We're talking 8 to 10 hour days.
Way longer, yeah.
So he and I have a little bit of experience with these magazine formats.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Pundit is a walk in the park compared to what we had to do.
6 hours, that's insane.
Yeah, I know that it is insane. That's why my other name, my wife calls me is Crazy Man. But then she didn't do it because of the radio side. she did it because of the fact that I like to drive in the middle of the night and I get stronger as the night wears on, where everybody else gets tired
Yeah.
and I get wired. So go figure. We'll leave that for another day.
Good show.
You're
guys.
naturally
Good
wired
show.
anyway.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
that?
You're naturally wired anyway.
Well, that's true. Yeah. I definitely feel like I am naturally wired a lot, but last week I got a little, I ended up getting a little bit unwired because of the thing. Yeah, I know George is trying to show the image. That's okay. Not
Yeah,
necessary.
that's our friend Butkus. Next to the officials as Chuck is laying on the ground. Sorry.
That's okay. No, obviously it's a moment where we start off with Dick Butkus, and George and I wanted to make sure that we were able to go out there and provide our 2 cents with Dick Butkus and Chuckhughes, a moment that unfortunately, if there's ever one that you wish you didn't have to worry about, it's one. But I'm glad that Damar Hamlin was on the not good side of updated medicine, because let me tell you, he's a very yucky young man to be alive. But to see Chuckhughes and now, maybe somewhere along the lines in heaven, Chuckhughes and Dick Butkus paths will cross. We'll never know. That's a side that we don't know. But meanwhile, I'm glad that we opened it up with Dick Butkus, and we're going to go out there and say rest in peace, Dick Butkus. So meanwhile, with that said, George, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you? So,
yeah, I've got a book out there, Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. Scott's in the book, and as far as football goes, a lot of great announcers from Detroit: Van Patrick, Bob Reynolds, Frank Beckman, Mark Champion. They're all in the book too, and Dan Miller, of course. There's a link to purchase the book at the end of my column. I write for Scott and Candy at the South Florida Tribune under the Motor City Tribune. And you can also find me at the Detroit Monitor here locally. I'll be on 108 Stitches, Inside the Pigskin, and of course, Sports Exchange and this wonderful program and the Fire Up Show. So I enjoy being part of the show. You can reach me. Best way to get a hold of me is gicorn@yahoo.com, or else you can find me on X, known as Twitter, under SandGSports99. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, George and I, as you can hardly tell, we're inseparable. So go figure. All right, Denzel, you're laughing at, so now you get to let everybody know that they can go ahead and get a hold of you.
Well, as you can see, the sub headline: the Gauntlet, Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sideline Sports Network. Also, of course, Confidential, which is on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, right here on the Pundit's Pundit, and then also, on the Sideline Sports also. Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, the Gauntlet presents Picked Off, which is our weekly picks for the NFL. So definitely check that out as well. Me, myself, James Tatum, JJ Jenkins, and Dom DeRubis. And then also there is the Sniper and the Pundit presents Top Rope Talk, all pro wrestling all the time. I'm the Sniper. He's the Pundit. That is on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well.
And I should also point out that Denzel Snipes occasionally comes on the Sports Exchange on Wednesday night when
we'll be on next Wednesday.
Yeah, you will be on next Wednesday, but he does come on the Sports Exchange, so don't sell yourself short. We love having you on that show. You bring a tremendous amount to it. All right, Mr. Jacob Christner, the Pundit, fire away.
Jake the Pundit on Twitter, Jacob Christner on Facebook, Jake the Pundit 1 on TikTok. I'm building the crew up little by little on that, building the followers. Then and then I am Sunday nights. We brought this part up Sunday mornings now. By the way, the professor and the pupil, you and I. Mondays the Top Rope Talk. We have this. Tuesdays every couple of weeks is I'm just letting you know this, man. It's the independent thing, but Yin and Yang's back. We'll have you on sometime, Denzel. We'll have that on there. Yeah, it's like we have that. And then Wednesday nights is the two shows, Confidential and this. Thursdays, this show. Fridays, when I go off the bench. When you need me, Gauntlet. And then soon enough, I'm finding out. I get my things every day. I'll have a couple of clips to show you of my movie soon. Even if they're short, it shows you I act.
Mm-hmm. He's also got a NASA mission coming up. He's a youth pastor on Tuesday nights, and he trains tigers in his spare time.
Yeah. No. Hippos, fighting hippos. But even better. But by the way, I'm also going to be writing a lot more for the South Florida Tribune. That we're going to be going over to the sports. We're going over to Sideline Sports with a new website. So a lot going on.
Yeah, not only that, you're going to come on the 108 Stitches baseball talk once in
Oh,
a while. when I
absolutely.
need you.
Absolutely. I didn't put that up because it's not
He,
full.
he doesn't
Right.
know
Well, one thing-
baseball, Scott.
Oh, he knows more than you think, George. But the main thing that's important, I do want to emphasize, seriously speaking, is the versatility that we have on the network where commentators can go from one platform to another and make a seamless transition. So, yeah, I know that Jacob's a talented writer. I just want to see him get more and more out of it. And obviously, he's a company person in every sense of the word, does everything that we feel that's expected of him to build his brand. With that said, I should point out once again that Pundit's Pundit is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Pundit's Pundit can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Don't sell Geo Savage Short or some of these other ones that we have. These are just the four main ones that come off the top of my head. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Just participate in the chat room or send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on, there you go. That boy, Denzel, give us the old signal. I know where you're going. So we broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter @Tribune_South_X. And also the South Florida Tribune is going to have its own publishing company as I work on our book as well. And Candy Ebling's behind the scenes. Let me reiterate one more time. My book is a media-related book. It's Lessons from the Microphone, Turning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. Following Pundit's Pundit, we have Fire Up with myself, George Eichhorn, and Ralph Williams. So, looking forward to having them there. So we have a great 1-2 punch here on Thursday nights. Any closing thoughts from any of y'all before we call it a night?
And just absolutely positively, like you said, I'm just going to repeat it again. Welcome back. Things are going to get better and better and bigger, with this. We're going to, very well, we're going to probably add production. We're going to probably add all that kind of stuff like that to our stuff as time goes on. It's going to get more and more fun. And with no outside the lines anymore, with a lot of these magazine shows going away, people are going to notice us fast.
We talk about the magazine format. That's why I scheduled it on Thursday night, where I had a little bit more latitude with the time, so we don't cut any topics short. And I know that in my mind that was the right move when we thought about it, and it certainly has done nothing to prove to me otherwise why I should ever change it back to the old way, let alone the fact that I'm too stubborn to want to do it anyways, because I enjoy this Thursday night thing with you guys anyway. So with that said, on behalf of George Eichhorn, Denzel Snipes, Jacob Christner, my name is Scott Morgan, Roth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Pundit's Pundit. We will see you next Thursday. Have a great week, everybody.